a real adult and still enjoy the toys and games of childhood. Like, I'm not even saying that when you become an adult, you can never pick up a toy ever again. But here's the difference. You know, those childhood toys, you're supposed to be playing with those with your own kids. I was just playing with Batman action figures yesterday, okay? Just yesterday I was. But I was playing with my son. It was something I was doing with him. I wouldn't sit down on the floor by myself and play with Batman toys because I'm a grown man. And there was a time when a grown man sitting on the floor and playing with action figures by himself would be immediately seen as mentally handicapped and probably institutionalized for it. Yet, when you're playing with your children, it's a different story. I have indeed experienced, once again, many of the joys of childhood, but from the perspective of an adult who is now helping to introduce those joys to my own children. And the joy that I derive from it now is largely in seeing and being a part of their joy. This is supposed to be one of the hallmarks of a stable, functional, well-rounded adult, that you learn how to find happiness in helping other people to be happy. Now, another point here. I made the same observation when we were discussing the adult Happy Meals a few weeks ago. And you know, we hear so much about how my generation is obsessed with nostalgia. This is like the millennial thing. Is always talking about their nostalgia, constantly pining for the innocence of their childhood, growing up in the 90s, you know. And there's nothing wrong with nostalgia, unless it totally consumes your life and becomes your entire personality. But also think about what they are nostalgic for. Their nostalgia is all tied to brands. Their nostalgia is a corporate invention. They're nostalgic for consumer products. They're nostalgic for entertainment franchises. It is a very particular, very modern kind of nostalgia that is easy for brands to exploit and monetize because they invented it. But it's not the kind of nostalgia that drives people towards better, more complete, and fulfilling lives. It just doesn't. Now, a nostalgia for experience, a nostalgia for family, a nostalgia for actual meaningful events that you went through and experienced as a child, that can drive you in a good and worthwhile way. So, you know, I find myself nostalgic for the family dinners that we would have when I was a child with my parents and my 5 brothers and sisters, and we would all sit around and have these big dinners. And I can be nostalgic for that. Well, guess what? Now I have 6 kids of my own, and I find myself back at the dinner table again with 4 of them, because 2 are still unborn. But I find myself back at the dinner table again, recapturing that experience and passing it down to my kids, who I hope will pass it to theirs, and so on. That's the sort of generational passing that we're supposed to be doing, not passing down entertainment franchises. I remember when I watched this franchise when I was a child, and it's like experience, things that you did, things that meant something. That's what you're supposed to be passing down to your kids. The problem is that so many in my generation, they were latchkey kids who came home to empty houses and divorced parents and ate dinner on the couch watching TV. And so their nostalgia is not for the experience, but for the thing they were watching. Last point. You know, you notice the way that things have completely flipped upside down. We have these adults clinging to their childhoods, while at the same time, we rip the childhood away from actual children. So children have their innocence stolen by groomers in public schools, by, you know, early exposure to porn, and all of the debased and degraded things that kids are exposed to intentionally all the time. And it's this mechanism which is intended to corrupt children, to destroy their innocence. And at the same time, when society is engineering this corruption, it is also beckoning towards adults, telling them to come back and become kids again. It's almost like we're trying to switch places. It's totally inverted and perverse. And we need to flip things back around and set it right. Let the kids be kids. They're the kids. Let them, if you're gonna be obsessed with nostalgia and childhood innocence, be obsessed with protecting the innocence of actual children. It's their turn to be kids now. We had our chance. It's over. We're adults now. Let the kids be kids.